Hello, and welcome to the Talent Empowerment Podcast, where we lift up people leaders so they can lift up their organizations. I'm your host, Tom Finn, co-founder and CEO of LegUp. Together, we'll learn how to drive people innovation, how to transform HR into people ops, and how to secure buy-in to disrupt the status quo. And as I like to say, it's finally time to stop smoking on airplanes and update your people strategy. Let's transform your organization and move from a culture of talent management to talent empowerment. This week's episode of the Talent Empowerment Podcast is brought to you by LegUp's Talent Insurance, an inclusive people development platform designed to help HR leaders empower their people through one-on-one professional coaching. With results like a 66% improvement in avoiding burnout, a 54% jump in leadership skills, and a 73% increase in job satisfaction, LegUp guarantees improved employee well-being, productivity, and retention. In fact, they insure it. Your people stay or they pay. Visit LegUp, that's LEGGUP.com to learn more. And without further ado, this is Talent Empowerment. Welcome to the Talent Empowerment Podcast, ladies and gents, where we lift up people leaders so you can lift up your organization. I am your host, Tom Finn, and today we have a high-energy, innovative guest, Gabrielle Turner. Gabrielle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tom. So happy to be here.
Well, we are thrilled to have you, and if you don't know Gabrielle, she is currently the director of HR at an amazing company named Caroo in Los Angeles, but she's really someone from my experience who is a natural-born people leader. She has experience at large companies like Target and Tilly's and currently Caroo, but she is instantly committed to the people she works with, coming in ready to take action with a list of new initiatives. She does not sit down and accept the status quo. She has spent her career in HR, and you are going to love hearing what her initiatives are at Caroo. But before we get to Caroo, I know that you started your career at a small company named Target. How does one get started at such an amazing and iconic brand?
Well, let me share this story. It's actually one of my favorites because it tells anyone and everyone that you never know where your career path can take you. So back in the day, I don't want to outdate myself. So let's say many, many years ago, Target used to go through a hiring process much different than today. And when you apply for an executive team leader role, which was a store level position, there were multiple departments which you could oversee. You go through the interview, and Target really focused on soft skills and really placing candidates in roles that matched their soft skills. And with that, I was actually placed into the executive team leader of human resources role. And it was the first time I really even considered going down the human resources path. I'd been in retail, been a store manager, really had a lot of experience from that perspective. However, coming into this role, it really opened me up to new ideas, a new career, and instantly I felt like this was a direction I wanted to continue to grow in. Because it allowed me to focus on people and being a partner, not only to the employees, but to the leaders that I worked with. And it taught me about compliance and best practices and processes and really being able to create a company culture that really supported the HR processes.
Yeah, wow. So you were basically touched by the Target angel and
Yes.
anointed into the HR role.
Yes.
Now, I guess you could have gone a bunch of other different directions, right? You could have gone into other departments in Target.
Absolutely. I could have been in soft lines or hard lines, or back then we had like the back room, which is like the logistics process. So I could have been anywhere today. So it's always one of those things you kind of wonder what could have happened back then if that didn't happen. So yeah.
Well, I think that's great. And being in HR and starting at Target gave you a lot of diverse sort of core fundamental skills that led to some other things that you're doing. What was the one thing that you took away from Target that was your sort of guiding light or guiding principle that was really important to you?
Ooh, I would say the one thing that I felt was really taught well to not only myself, but to all leaders was the focus on people and the importance of having a positive culture, also allowing your employees to really feel that you're invested in them, that you care about them, and then that you value them. And they gave us the tools to be able to do that, but also allowed us to get creative in a sense to really be more specific to our stores and the demographics and the culture that may exist within our four walls.
Wow, that's great. I mean, I love it when people get back to culture and humans and people. And, I always get a little scared when people start talking about compliance and learning management systems. I start to feel like we're going to go back to top-down management, and somebody's going to wag their finger at me, and it sort of makes me a little uncomfortable. Yeah, exactly. So so now you've taken this sort of people idea that from Target, and you're on to your next location. Like, how did you go through that process to start climbing the ladder in HR? It looks like when I look at your background, you haven't been afraid to make a move.
No, I haven't. It's kind of funny because some might see that as a challenge, where I really see that as an opportunity, where I was had the opportunity to actually learn about different roles, learn about different companies, and really learn about their processes internally. So I think with every opportunity I've had, it's been so different and different in good ways. And for example, I was in recruiter roles, I was in generalist roles, I was in like the coordinator role as well. And I think being able to handle all tasks and understanding the importance of like every step of the way has really given me a great understanding of what is fully encompassed in an HR role in that generalist aspect. And I think even being a generalist in HR today is a little bit more rare because there's a lot more specialties. Like you'll have your benefits manager, you have your compliance focus, you have like your people operations, you even have like your DEI initiatives roles now. I think through all my experience, I've been able to touch and be involved in every single one of those. And it really helped me create a more broad understanding of, okay, we need to have DEI initiatives, but also how do our best practices ensure we are considering, like, for example, diverse candidates through our recruiting best practices, or are our policies very inclusive of the cultures that are represented within our company? So it's really allows me to ensure that I include all aspects and all thoughts through all that I do.
Well, it's a really important point, because if somebody's starting their career in HR or going through this process or looking for a role in HR, maybe they're career changing mid-career into this space, understanding all of the different touch points is so important, that you understand that it all ties together. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to people and how we're supporting the right culture within an organization. So that makes all the sense in the world. So maybe let's jump to Caroo and talk about this really cool company. So tell us what Caroo does for those that haven't heard of this really innovative space, and give us a little background.
Well, so Caroo is actually a newer company. We're quite young. We're about 2 years young now. And we are a company full of very passionate people. And I think this is one of my greatest pleasures of working here is getting to see how passionate each and every one of my employees are about the roles and their contributions to the overall product that we create. So if you haven't checked us out yet, Caroo is your HR dreams come true, basically. Let me tell you. It reminds, I'm going to just kind of divert for a second here, but it reminds me of like back in the days where, oh, it sounds like back in the days, actually like 2 years ago, right when COVID hit. I remember I was sitting and I was going, okay, open enrollment starting, and then boom, we go into lockdown. And I had this huge well-being fair planned. We had all these in-person sessions scheduled, like, and then I was like, oh, okay, now we need to pivot so quickly. And I had an idea come to mind, and my idea was, let's create boxes of like mini wellness fairs or ways we can send snacks to our employees. And hence, we had about 5,000 employees. So this was going to be a large task to take on.
Yeah.
When you think about the cost and your time, we were like, well, that's not going to work. So let's think of other ideas. Well, Caroo is a is the solution for this. And I think that's what's really cool is like Caroo really empowers employers, HR teams to really support their culture initiatives. So we have a wonderful team. We have our merchandisers, our brand partners that really take time and thought into sourcing products, whether they're snacks or hard goods, and it can even be swag. And we really focus on what the needs of that company are. And we will source these items and we curate what we call the perfect gift. And it can be for any occasion. It can be for new hire orientation. It can be for Black History Month. It can be for milestones like anniversaries, birthdays, the birth of a child, for someone that joined your team. So we make sure that we cover every occasion, but it's something our product is continuing to grow. And I actually had the honor 2 weeks ago now of attending our leadership offsite and getting to meet many of these wonderful leaders that are a part of Caroo and hearing the direction the product is going in. And they truly think about how to empower. And I love that I keep saying empower because I keep looking at the sign behind your head. But we're truly focused on talent empowerment and helping employers empower their employees to really make them feel like they're cared and valued and recognized. So, yeah.
And you care and value and recognize in Caroo's space through gifts and merchandise and snacks, as you said. And this comes in prepackaged boxes. Is that right?
It does. I actually wish I had a box to show you. I got one yesterday and I actually snapped a photo. It's on my LinkedIn, so you can check it out.
Yeah, we'll check you out on LinkedIn and take a look at that photo for sure. I think this is really great. But if I'm out there and I'm a leader in a company,
Yeah.
I might say, well, that's great, Gabrielle. I mean, I probably can't afford it. I don't have a budget for boxes and gifts and employee empowerment tools. Where's the budget on my line? Where's the line item on my budget for that? How expensive does this get?
That's up to you. You can create and curate whatever box you want based on a budget. Our sales team, our customer service team will work alongside with you. I think the coolest thing is you can actually use your wellness dollars from your medical carriers to purchase these. So I know that's something that can always be negotiated when you go through strategy sessions during open enrollment. So I think it also kind of spins the question back, like how important is it that your employees feel cared and valued? And this is one of the ways you can do that, an accomplishment in such an easy way.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's an amazing company and it's a great idea for anybody that's run
Thanks.
teams or divisions in organizations or small and medium-sized businesses. I mean, you're always looking for ways to lift up your team, be a little different, do something thoughtful and kind, and it's really hard to do on your own. So to be able to outsource that to a competent company that can put all of this together for you, I think is just a lovely idea. So let's talk about you a little bit in the HR space. So you're
Okay.
doing some things at Caroo. You're not the one building the boxes. You're the one leading the HR organization. So talk to me about sort of your initiatives at Caroo. We said in your opening that you're innovative. So
Yep.
let's get right to it. What are you doing that's unique and different on your agenda?
Ooh, this is a loaded question. First of all, I wish I was building boxes because then you get to see all the cool product. But I'll take the HR seat for now. Should have gone in the logistics direction, probably with Target if I wanted that.
That's right. Yeah.
But in regards to initiatives, I think one thing I really value about Caroo and coming to this company is I work really closely with Sean Kelly, who's our CEO and co-founder, and he's very passionate about ensuring our employees feel recognized and valued. And it's very much in line with our mission, but he wants to make sure that our programs we're creating are moments for us to connect and get to know each other. And we're 100% remote, so it's that much more challenging, I think. And I know a lot of you that are probably going to listen to this podcast are like, same girl, we are 100% remote. We're trying to
Yep.
think of new ways to create engagement. And so what I actually did is I did a spin on our boxes. And I've created a program which I'm very excited about, and our employees are very excited about and excited to be a part of. And it's called Caroo Unboxed. So it really talks about like that moment you get a box, like even an Amazon box, any box, and you go to open it and you really take time to think about that product. You explore it, like either you open it, you feel it, you read the labels, you read the directions. And Caroo Unboxed is similar to that. So we're going to unbox the various cultures that exist within our company. We're going to learn about our cultures. We're going to learn about our employees while also incorporating well-being, like the dimensions. So this quarter, we're focusing on professional development. And I think it's so great because it ties in so much to what your platform offers as well. And so we're doing that. We've celebrated Black History Month, but before we even celebrated, we educated ourselves through various tips that have been provided through flyers. One thing I'm really excited about is Women's History Month. I think it's so important to really uplift and empower the women that represent Caroo. And we're going to have a week full of fun events. One thing we're doing that's really great is we're creating a Spotify playlist of all our favorite female artists, and
Wow.
we're going to rock out to it all week. And then we're just going to send positive messages to each other. But I think through all that I do, I'm really trying to build that community and connection. But I think even more importantly, Tom, as well, is I'm really empowering my leaders to build a culture within their own teams, because it's important to recognize that while we can have a culture that's truly positive and everyone has like those great feelings and loves being here, that really begins at the individual team levels.
It does.
So it does. And it's important to make sure my leaders feel like they can create that successful culture and help their employees feel valued by even beginning with like, okay, are you spending time giving them feedback? What does your one-on-one time look like with them? Like, do they even have a job description? Like, I think that's so huge, especially in a startup world, is like, do they know their roles and responsibilities? Like, so
Yeah,
it's really, yeah.
for somebody that works in a large organization, that might sound crazy.
I know, right?
What is going on over there at Caroo? But in
No, we
startup
have them. We have them. Let me
in
tell you.
in startup organizations, a lot of times you're creating jobs on the fly to meet the demand of your customer, and you may not have the job description at hand because you just didn't need it 6 months ago, and you're growing so darn fast that you're making it up, after work, that job description, so you can post it the next day and get somebody hired, which is really what you were saying. And so as you're thinking about this, and you're thinking about your Caroo Unboxed initiative,
Mm-hmm.
these are things that can be done in a remote environment. So you mentioned your Spotify playlist, which is fun. You mentioned well-being. You were mentioning sort of multicultural engagement. I mean, what are some of the actions that are really taking place? Spotify is a great example, but are there others?
Yeah, there's a lot of others. I don't want to spill all my secrets to you in one day. So I think what we're really focused on in year one, and what I've communicated through the year one planning of Caroo Unboxed, is year one's really about educating. So how are we educating ourselves about the cultures that exist? And one thing we actually just recently held was called a Caroo Unboxed moment together. And what we did during this time is I actually had an employee who celebrates the Lunar New Year, and she created the most beautiful PowerPoint presentation. And she shared her family traditions around the celebrations, which she does with her family, and a little about the history and the superstitions. And to have someone else come in and share is exactly the main goal of my program. Is I I'm going to share something with you for a second, but I always say I don't want to be the person leading this, and I don't want to be the person following. It's very similar to that the ride at Disney, It's a Small World, in the song where they all stand in a circle and they're like holding hands, singing the same song with such joy and pride. This is what I hope to accomplish through my program, because at the end of the day, we all make up a diverse workforce at Caroo, and being able to recognize that, celebrate with each other, and get to know each other will just make us all much happier, but also in a way it pays back to Caroo and makes us much more successful as a company.
Well,
So,
it sure does. You hit the nail on the head. I
yeah.
mean, the more diverse group and the more interesting and thoughtful backgrounds that we put into one team and one organization, the higher the revenue, and the studies all show that. And it just creates a better world. And I love
Yeah.
that you're bringing in folks with different backgrounds and explaining sort of the really unique components of what they do and how they do it and what it means to them, and how they bring that part of themselves to work. I think is
Yep.
really important because it just creates more understanding, and more acceptance of others. And my goodness, this world needs it right about now. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're really doing that good work.
Yeah.
So what would you say? I mean, it sounds like everything's been super easy, right? I mean, no bumps in the road. What would you say has been the biggest challenge at Caroo? I mean, coming in, it's a young company. There's lots of moving parts. What's been the most difficult part for you?
Um, I think the most difficult, and I wouldn't even say it's just at Caroo, it's been through all my experience, and I feel like so many of us can relate to this, is having to adapt. I mean, HR's changed so much in the last 2 years. Like, we have now this like woke culture, and we have like so much more awareness around DEI, and also the role of HR is shifting as well. And I think it's been really being able to adapt, but at the same time ensuring that we're still focused on compliance while creating moments to engage as a company. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is being able to balance that in a sense. Is okay, well, we want to make sure we're thinking about our company and our employees, but how do we merge these two together? Um, and I think it even is like, it's funny you mentioned like the world today makes things a little bit more challenging. And I think that's exactly it. It does. And I think one thing I really believe in is like DEI has always existed. Like, we're suddenly putting such a focus and emphasis on it. And my question is, culture's always existed. And why are we now putting such an emphasis on it? If we were truly like people that were genuine and care about the people we work with, we would think about these things in a sense. And I think I even ponder on it myself and think like, what could I have done better? Like, why is it now even myself in my role, I have so much more focus on these things? And I think one thing I try to do better today, and I'm trying to improve on, and people say, well, you already do this, is listen. And I think when you talk about a world being so much harder, I actually deleted all my social media platforms. I only have LinkedIn for like professional and work reasons, but I deleted Instagram, Facebook, and like I guess MySpace if it still counts. But but I deleted
Yeah,
all
I'm
of
sorry.
those things.
Let's pause on that. Did you just say I deleted MySpace?
I'm
Wow.
making sure you're still listening to me. Like, go on here. But
Okay.
I'm like, doesn't Justin Timberlake like own that at one point? Like, total side topic, but I think I remember that for some reason.
I'm not sure. I mean, I do remember him from the movie The Facebook, um, but
Yes.
not sure. I'm not sure that maybe he was an investor in MySpace. Who knows? It seems like a
I'm
long
gonna
time.
Google this.
Somebody's going to be listening to this saying, like, what is MySpace? And that's
I
going to make
know.
me feel really, really old,
Oh
which
my
is okay.
gosh. We were even talking about the other day, wasn't it like Facebook, where you used to have a college email address to actually sign up for Facebook.
That's right.
Wasn't it like,
You had to have an
yeah,
EDU. Yeah, that's how it
yes,
started. I mean, I think at
yes,
Harvard is where it
yeah.
started, uh, and uh, and then just sort of grew from there. But they've
So, yeah,
done
but
okay.
basically back to it. I deleted it because, in short, I felt like more opinions were being offered versus the listening that needed to occur. And that's where I really come forward with every one of my employees, and I truly let them know like, this is a safe space. I will listen. And I said, at times I may not have anything to say because I haven't experienced this situation, but you can always trust that I will listen to what you have to say, and I will be there for you. And that's what I try to do every day. And I'm still learning.
Yeah, it's a good place to start, and listening and being leading with empathy are probably
Yeah.
two cornerstones of real HR leadership, or as I like to say, people leadership, because it's really transitioning. The role is transitioning from human resources, which was just very clinical at one point, and there was probably a time in history that we needed that. But today, you just need to be a little more human and be empathetic and listen and try to understand what the needs are of the population that you support. I also think there's so much pressure on these roles today from talent acquisition that has open recs that needs to fill them, to benefit leaders, right, to DEI leaders, and everybody's got a watchful eye. There's a lot of pressure, and so I think just giving yourself some grace and knowing that the basics of listening and being empathetic are going to win the day are probably a good place to start.
I love that you say that, because HR is generally thought of like the thankless department, right? And I think at a moment, like I really want everyone to think, like, if you're in HR listening to this, like even you, Tom, like everything we achieve is for our employees. And while we may not get the 80% engagement scores we're looking for, like, how are we impacting that one individual? It's like that positive, meaningful impact for one individual. And I think of that, like, use those as your recognition moments, use those as like your accomplishments, like, because each and every one of us does make a positive impact. And I think we have to remember that sometimes. And it's been tough, but we're surviving, we're strong, we can do this, right? Like, I feel like all my peers I know, I always tell them, like, we all have done such different things throughout these last 2 years. And like I always say, I'm proud to know each and every one of them and what they're trying to do and what we're trying to tackle. And I appreciate them. So
yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I'm glad you said it. I mean, this entire podcast is about lifting up people leaders so that you all can lift up your teams, because you have such an impactful job. And I do hope people recognize in large organizations how important these roles are, and making sure you have the tools and the resources and the budget to support the people that you want to support within the organization.
Absolutely.
So very, very important. So speaking of culture, not every company has the right culture. There's probably some folks out there that are thinking, man, I do not work in the same culture that Gabrielle does at all. My culture is a little more stiff, or a little more rigid, or perhaps a little more fiscal. Everybody's got a different culture that they're working in. How do you know when it's time? How do you know, hey, I don't fit here, I should probably be thinking about making a move?
So it's funny you use the word fit, because it's actually a word I don't like that word fit, because I think with culture, it's like, how are you adding value? And is your value recognized? And do you feel like that appreciation and care? And I think that's when you really think and stop and pause and you go, okay, first of all, have I communicated and expressed these like feelings to the right person? Do I feel like they've been heard? Has action been taken? I think that's something I always say is like, you have to make sure before you leave or exit. And again, back to exit interviews where everyone all of a sudden feels empowered to share like this and that, and like this happened. And my question back to everyone is, how did you communicate this? Who did you communicate it to? And like, if that didn't work, did you feel that you had someone else you could go and speak to? And I think give that company a chance, give that person a chance to listen and see what they can do. And if you've done all of that and you still feel this is not the right place, really think about what you're looking for in your next place and make that decision. But I think it's something I've been through personally, and it's not easy. It's not easy being in a place where you sit at the end of the day and you're like, this feels like work more than anything. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. It seems more like a task than something where I'm actually creating and developing, and that my work feels valued or I'm seen as a partner. And that doesn't feel good. It truly doesn't feel good for anyone. And that's hard. And sometimes it may not only be from you feeling that, it can be from the employer feeling that way about you. And I think those are times where you have to really sit down and remember, I know it's so cheesy to say this, but like everything happens for a reason. And that's when you pick yourself up, brush off your resume, and start applying. Reach out to your networks, your connections, see like how you can really utilize them to find your next opportunity. But before you start looking for that next opportunity, you need to know what you're looking for and how you're going to approach the interview process differently. What questions are you going to ask to really understand the culture, how they value and recognize people? So
Yeah, I think that's the mistake people make is they don't actually do the deep work to understand what about the culture they're not recognizing, or what about the culture they feel isn't good for them at that time, right? And if you
yes.
don't do that deep work, if you don't really think about it, you're just going to jump from the frying pan into the
Yep.
fire, and you're going to make the same decision because you haven't thought about it. You're going to make that same buying decision essentially for your new
Absolutely.
employer, and you may end up in the exact same situation. I can tell you, I did that early in my
Hmm.
career. I went from one employer to the other thinking it was the
Hmm.
employer, but really it was me. It was
Hmm.
absolutely me. I had to
Yeah.
work on myself and
Hmm.
figure some things out, and and it had really very little to do with my manager at the time or the employer as a whole. So I recognize that in myself. I've done it. I'm not. I don't have a perfect track record, right? We all do
But I
these
have to
things.
ask, Tom, how's your current boss?
Well, well, I mean, the reason for those that don't know, the reason Gabrielle is asking that, I lead a company by the name of Leg Up, and we are a professional development platform for HR leaders to support the development of their employees in an inclusive way across all of their employees. And we do that through a product called Talent Insurance,
Yes.
which covers every single employee in the company with 6 sessions of an executive coach, essentially, for the time that they're at the employer. And we've made it very affordable. So my bosses are my customers, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that really is who the
That's so
boss is at
true.
the end of the day. And my bosses, I've got hundreds of HR leaders that I report to and support and make sure they have the data they need and the support they need to make good decisions for their own company and their own people.
So you empower every HR leader you come in contact with as well. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. So what's on tap for you with Caroo? You've got the
Yeah.
Unboxed. You've got this vision. Like, where are we going with Caroo?
Where are we going? Actually, I think this is like one of the first times in my career I actually say this is like, I am so excited about what's next. And having not only from like my position, but also like because I get first glance at the product is like where the product is going. But I know we're talking HR, so I'm going to stick to HR. But right now, I'm really focusing on developing a strong onboarding experience.
Great.
And that has to be like really tied with that pretty bow at the end of the day. And it's about the whole candidate experience and transitioning over from the recruiter to HR. And then also the orientation. What does orientation look like? And how are they getting to learn about our product, our platform, the employees that they will work with or be proud to work with or know? And even like what HR pieces do they need to know, but not overdoing it for them on day one. And so really creating something that's unique to Caroo and really elevating the team I work with to really be a part of those moments and really celebrate and share their passion. So that's what's on tap next. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping it's within the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing our first trial. And yeah, but there's a lot coming down and you never know. I might get an email say, hey, let's explore this. And that's where I pivot and go get my curiosity on and see what other companies are doing. I explore, I ask, and I learn. And I think that's the greatest thing about my role is every day I'm learning and I'm challenged and I'm given that opportunity. And I think I'm thankful for that. So
Well, I always look at the onboarding as sort of the second phase that you mentioned there. The first is recruiting, and I kind of
yeah.
see that as the dating phase. So we're
Hmm.
recruiting, we're kind of dating, and then the onboarding we've kind of committed to each other. We're
Yep.
we're, we're definitely holding hands at this point, and at that point, that has to be smooth, right? Or the
Hmm.
relationship is not going to last.
Right.
whether it's in our personal lives or it's in our professional lives. And I love that you highlighted onboarding as being so critically important to really clean up that process, because if you don't onboard well, you're really setting that relationship up for a quick end, because
Right.
people don't feel like you care about them if that doesn't go
Exactly.
well. And so you've got to all of our friends in HR out there, you have got to nail the onboarding.
Hmm.
And the biggest challenge is that it's not always within your control. It may be at the line manager level or the regional manager level. So we have to create those tools, resources, processes so they're repeatable and we can measure them over time. And that's when you get a
Absolutely.
really smooth onboarding. And that leads to, right, drum roll please, higher levels of retention down the road, right? Which is really important,
Yes,
when we start to think about the company culture and all those things that are tied together. So I couldn't agree with
absolutely.
you anymore. Um,
Absolutely.
so outside of being in HR, what do you do for fun outside of your workday?
Outside of my workday, so I have a confession. I am a workaholic, but it's because I love what I do so much. But when I'm not working, I'm actually surprised she has listened to me this whole time. She's actually upstairs. I have two little girls. I have a 6-year old and one that's
Yeah,
about to turn 4, and they are my world. I'm a very family focused individual. I spend a lot of time with my parents and my siblings, and whether it's margaritas and homemade guac on the patio on a Sunday afternoon, or taking my girls to the zoo, or just even to the beach, it's about being together. And I know it's like, trust me, I'm not always rainbows and butterflies. Let me tell you, I truly have my moments, especially yesterday. Like, I walk upstairs and there's glitter all over the floor of their bedroom. And I had to remember, keep calm, like with those little flyers, like keep calm, like I don't even know.
keep calm
But
and carry on, right?
exactly. But I think I'm I love to work out. Working out's one of my absolute favorite things. It's my way to find my balance. I also drink wine. I'm a big wine person. My whole family, we're actually really into wine, and my dad like introduces us to so many cool new brands and types and regions and everything. So I think summing it up in one word is like, it's my family. My family means everything to me. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about like caring for the whole human, is because I've grown up that way. And it's such a special feeling to know I can always rely on my parents and my siblings whenever I need. And it's funny because my mom always goes, I never want to be your, when I was growing up, she goes, I never want to be your best friend. And I go, why, mom? And she goes, well, who was your best friend last week? And I'll be like, oh, Katie. And I'll be like, who's your best friend today? Oh, Bethany. And I'm like, and she's like, exactly. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to be my best friend back then, too, probably, but it's family. They're always there for you. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. So the word for you is family, and
Yes.
the reason really it pours out of you when we connect and when you talk, that you really have this passion and love for others and lifting people up, and that's why we had you on the podcast today, because
Thank
I just
you.
think the work that you're doing is fabulous. I love
Aw.
Caroo Unboxed and the initiatives that you're putting together, but mostly you're just a great people leader and a great people person, and thank you for
Aw.
doing the hard work that you do every day. We appreciate it.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say. I do have to give credit to Caroo, my CEO Sean Kelly, and even my team. Like everyone I get to work with, like they're the ones that keep me going and make me want to be better every day. Is like, because like you said, they're my customers, my employees at the end of the day, and I enjoy being there for them and creating the best programs and processes and everything. So
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And it's always a team effort. So if folks listening wanted to reach out to you, MySpace would not be the place to find you. But where where could someone find you if they wanted to connect?
Oh, if you want to connect, LinkedIn's always a great way, but if you want to send an email and reach out, you can always reach me at um, my email. So it's gabrielle.turner@caroo.com. And I'd love to get to know you and we can chat, exchange thoughts, and there's always great conversations to be had.
Yeah, absolutely. Gabrielle, thank you so much for
Thank
joining the
you.
show. This was amazing to have you. Really
Oh, you're
appreciate it.
so sweet. Thank you for everything. This has been such an amazing opportunity. I appreciate you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you all for joining the Talent Empowerment Podcast. I hope this conversation lifted you up so you can lift up your teams and organizations. As we always like to say, let's get back to people and culture together. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Talent Empowerment. For more information on our show and today's guests, head to the show notes or visit talentempowerment.com. And as always, don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss an opportunity to empower yourself and your people. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps the show grow. And a final thank you to our sponsor, LegUp, and their people development program, Talent Insurance. To learn more about how they guarantee retention, employee well-being, and employee performance through one-on-one coaching, please visit legup.com. That's LEGGUP.com.